Okay, welcome to Chapter 4. We're going to continue our look at nouns. Let's do a quick review. 3 characteristics of nouns are case, number, and gender. We've looked at this already. And the breakdown of what these look like are case has several choices: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, ablative, and vocative. Number has singular and plural, and gender has masculine, feminine, and neuter. So those are our 3 characteristics of nouns. Here's a review of first and second declension nouns. Remember that we have 5 different declensions that we'll be looking at. We'll probably only get to third or fourth this semester, this year, but those are all examples that each declension has its own set of endings. You will recognize first declension because it has a letter A, second declension because there's a US and then an I in the genitive, etc. So let's take a look at first declension one more time. Your endings are I, Remember, vocative is the same as the nominative. I, is, as, is, I. And if you don't have those quite down yet, say them over and over again until you get them down. Here's your second declension masculine. Us, o. Say them out loud with me. O, Remember, A has an exception here. Second declension has an exception. There's a letter E. And then E, orum, is, os, e. Those are your second declension masculine. So we're going to look at second declension neuter. Again, you probably learned these last year, but these look a lot like second declension masculine, just a couple of tweaks. So let's take a look at this, second declension neuter. So here it is. They are e, o, a, orum, is, a. So there's a couple of things I want you to notice. First thing is that it's mostly identical to second declension masculine. Notice there's your second declension masculine, us, o, e, orum, is, os, e. Notice how they're almost identical. And us, e and e, o and o, and o and o. You can see how it's almost identical. There are a couple of differences, and I've circled them here with green circles. Nominative singular, you start off with the um instead of us. And then in the vocative, again, we have the vocative rule, which is it looks just like the nominative. Second declension masculine was the exception to that rule, but second neuter keeps it. So in nominative singular, vocative is vocative singular is as well. Now the other difference is, and notice the nominative plural is a letter A instead of a letter I. So it's a and e. Everything else is going to be the same, except here's our second thing you need to know about second declension. We have what we call the neuter rule, that whatever is going on in the nominative case will also be the same thing in the accusative case. So in nominative singular and accusative singular as well. In nominative plural, so therefore in accusative plural you also have an A. And against the vocative rule is the same thing. Whatever's in the nominative is in the vocative. So you got again in singular vocative and in vocative plural. So that's the most important things you need to know about the second declension masculine. All right, here of course is the vocative rule. Yeah, nominative, vocative are the same. There you go. So let's look at an example of a second declension neuter noun. Here's one. It's the word donum, which means gift. Donum, doni, dono, donum, dono, donum, dona, donorum, donis, dona, donis, dona. And that's how you decline second declension neuter, second declension neuter. So you take the stem, D-O-N, and you find out that's the stem because you use the genitive and take the I ending off, and that gives you the stem. You just add the D-O-N to all the endings, and you decline it. So here's a review of first and second declension, second masculine, second neuter. Here's all the endings. Say them out loud with me. I, arum, is, as, I. Us, e, o, e, orum, is, os, e. E, o, a, orum, is, a. Now, just so you know, for your chant purposes, we're not going to really be saying the vocative ever, and from this point forward, you probably won't hear me mention it very much, and your chants and your diagrams and charts will basically only have nominative through ablative. But for the purposes of this next quiz, I want to make sure you know vocative. So I would make sure you learn the vocative for these three declensions. First, second masculine, second neuter. And then after that, you're probably not going to see it again as far as a quiz goes. So let's talk about adjectives. We know about adjectives. Adjectives have to agree with the noun in case, number, and gender. So therefore, the noun needs to have, or the adjective needs to have a masculine form, a feminine form, and a neuter form. So your noun, magnus, magna, magnum, has masculine, feminine, neuter, and you can see each of these is declined out. Magnus, magni, magno, magnum, magno, magne, magni, magnorum, magnis, magnos, magnis, magni, etc. I won't read them all out to you. But that's how you decline an adjective that is either first or second declension. Let's quickly talk about uses of adjectives. You pretty much know the main use of adjective. It's called the attributive adjective. And what that means is that the adjective basically gives a quality to a noun. Like the Roman poet loves the girl. What poet was it? It's the Roman poet. So Roman is an adjective that modifies poet. It's giving a quality to it. You could say the girl. You could give a quality to the girl, like she's tall. The Roman poet loves the tall girl, or the Roman poet loves the Roman girl. That adjective is modifying that noun. Another form of an adjective is when you have an adjective by itself, but it's in the predicate. And again, you learned this with your ELA. I know you've learned it. It's called the predicate adjective. Adjectives in the predicate that modifies the subject. So the poet is great. Great is all by itself over there in the predicate. There's no noun next to it. But it is modifying a noun, but it's the noun that's in the subject. So this is called a predicate adjective. Then there's the usage of the adjective, what's called the substantive adjective. And this is where you use an adjective in place of a noun. Like you don't even have a noun. This is functioning. The adjective functions in place of the noun. So here's an example. Good overcomes evil. Well, good is an adjective. It's not a noun. Literally what they mean is good men overcome evil men, or good things overcome evil things. In this case, men is the noun and good is modifying men, or men is the noun and evil is modifying the word men. But you can drop the word men and just say good overcomes evil. We see an example of this in Jesus was talking in Matthew chapter 5, the Beatitudes. He says the meek will inherit the earth. Well, meek is an adjective. What he's saying is that meek people who are meek, who have the quality of meekness, will inherit God's kingdom. And so he doesn't use the word people, he just says the meek. And so it's being used, this adjective is being used as a substantive. So these are the three main uses of the adjective in Latin sentences. So you can take a break here and do some of the worksheet, or you can continue on. We have just about 3 more slides I want to show you. And here is a verb that you know. It's an irregular verb. It's not first conjugation or second conjugation. It's in a category all by itself called irregular. And it's in the present form called, it's sum ss, sumus est sunt. And this is the verb that it's a to be verb. And so you translate it, I am, you are, he, she, or it is, or you could even see there is. Sumus is we are, estis is you all are, or for us Texans, y'all are. Sunt, they are, or again, there are. So that's the irregular verb sum in the present tense. Again, you probably already know it. Maybe just review for you, but if you don't know it, get it down. Sum es est, sumus estis sunt. So go ahead and finish up this worksheet and do the exercises, and go ahead and take the quiz and see how you do.